As they say, let's get this party started. Good day, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming into us from. My name's Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here on the DYOR Media Network, and I'm so glad to be hosting, once again, a DYOR Live. Oh, there's our guest. Didn't want to do that one. There's Pedro. Nope, that one. Ow. There we go. Trying to get the logo up for the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is December 12th, 2023. We're almost halfway through December, which means there's only a few more days to Christmas. And of course, as I say every day, while you should be out there spending money on your kids and your family, getting them things, we'd really rather you spend them here with us, watching our videos, maybe even hitting that super chat, whatever you'd like. But man, it is Christmas time. And it is Christmas time in the markets taketh and the markets giveth. It depends on whether you're Santa or the Grinch. But we got a good show for you today. I've got Pedro Garcia in the house. Pedro.
What up, my peoples?
As Pedro said at the beginning while we were warming up here, if everyone could take the time to like, share, comment, do whatever, interact with us in some way or manner. It really helps with the engagement, and since we're a small little channel, growing slowly, I might add, very slowly and steady, we are dependent on the feedback from the audience to help the algorithm push us out to other people. While we try as we may on social media, the biggest pushes of to get these shows out is really just the algorithms, and we're kind of a slave to that. Anyway, we got a good show for you today. In the past, I should say we have a guest today. Again, we don't always have a guest, but a couple of months ago, we had Koleya Karrington of the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, and a lot has transpired in her world and the blockchain world in the past a couple of months. So we thought I'd have her back on the show. So after Pedro and I get done talking about what's going on in BTC land, we'll have Koleya on to talk all about how promoting blockchain is beneficial not only to companies and stuff, but to local governments and stuff, because of the what I've discovered recently through the learning about mining and attending her summit. It is the massive industry behind the whole BTC and other proof of work, and for that matter, the larger proof of stake groups also. The economy behind it is just incredible, and politicians really gave everyone the short shrift about it until they started hearing the words hundreds of millions of dollars and many, many employment jobs and all that type of stuff. So we thought, wait a minute, we're not covering this well enough. So we're getting back into it, and Koleya will be on the show to talk about that. And of course, we've got the reliable advice by Pedro Garcia here, the crypto chart analyst. Pedro, what is going on in these markets right now? Pedro, where'd you go? Pedro, you're on mute.
I don't know. You should be able to hear me.
Gotcha now.
Hear me now. There we go. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right. Let's go ahead and check a couple things out. Like I said, good. We've got the you are watching. All right, good. Just want to make sure the financial advice. As you guys can see, we've definitely coming up into that supply zone that I've been talking about. We are selling off. A lot of our listeners have been pretty much kind of expecting this in this area, as well as when you look at how far we're probably going to go down. Like I've been telling you guys, we've been kind of creeping up here for the last 2-3 weeks, but I mean, the reality is we're not putting any demand wicks. what I always talk about. Like, we want to see, whenever we move up, we want to see a defense against what is actually happening. If we just go straight up, then it's going to go straight down. So we want to make sure that as the market is moving up, that we see a type of defense for that. So let me go in depth here. Now,
which chart, just which time frame you got up there, Pedro?
So this is the daily chart. Now, one of the most important things I want to make sure you guys understand, remember, I've talked about this, okay? We don't have any buyer wicks. Remember, the market must go down first where sellers push, and then who steps in? The buyers, who then push it up, right? And so this is a good example. The market was coming up here, right? Boom, 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 boom. Kind of going sideways. We're absorbing and establishing orders through here. But then when I saw this, remember I talked out, guys, because this is also where my other zone was at. I said we should see the market sell off. Now, I expected us to go further down into this 30,000, 29,000 area that I talked about.
Right.
But it did not. It then continued up. So I said, all right, it's blown through that weekly zone. The next zone is a weekly and monthly zone, which is sitting right here up at that 48,000. And this is when I started to change my bias pretty clear. This is when I made the comment saying, look, I do expect that market to go down, but the market is always right. Much like your wife, man. All right.
Yes. The market is like Mrs. Striking, always right.
Always right. And even if she's wrong, she's right. Just for the younger guys out there, just so you know. But in the same sense, you can see that as the market has come down here, I do expect it to see it come down to this 36,000 at least, okay? And potentially coming down to, again, that 30,000 mark, because this is where we're seeing real buyers sitting at. Like I pointed out here, we've got volume sitting right here down in the volume level. In addition to that, you also see a nice little slip and slide all the way down to this level here. So for me, looking at Bitcoin, I'm not afraid. I'm expecting, just like I've been talking about CAS, right? I expected CAS to go down so I can go in and buying at those lower levels because it's the cycle of the market, right? And so that's how we want to look at it here. This is part of the sequential movement of the market. So as it moves, it's like breathing, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. So that's just how it works. So that's BTC as we see it today. We are kind of taking a breath here today. If you look at that let's just go to the 30-minute candles right here. You can see that we went sideways down yesterday. When we were on it, we were about up here, I believe, it would have been 11 o'clock. Yeah, so I said expect us to come down to the lows for the day of tomorrow. When we were speaking yesterday, I said expect to see the lows of that day and then see a little bit of a rally. So as you can see, we came down, a bit of a rally. Now we should see another sell-off because you can see we have lower highs, or we have a lower high to here. We have another lower high here. Here we have a lower low. We could see some consolidation, but I don't see a lot of volume stepping in as... Ooh, sorry. I have a hard time. You know how like nobody likes their own voice? I can't stand
No, I accidentally fed that back to you.
Oh, nobody heard that then? All right. Like it's like when you hear your voice, it's like, oh, it's like the most annoying thing. Anyways, so as you can see right here, we are going down. I'm not seeing any demand wicks as we're coming down. So I do expect us to come down to these lower levels into these levels. So that's it in a nutshell. If you want to, and I am getting the YouTube playback for whatever reason.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, I fixed it.
All right, excellent. So you can see right here, as we're moving down, we are following a few of these moving average here pretty clearly. My 8-hour, you can see here, we're definitely coming back for the first test here. This will sell off here. We have that 50-period moving average on that 8-hour chart that's holding us up. But again, it's pierced it. So I do expect us, again, to come down into these 37, 35, 30,000 area here. So in a nutshell, that's what I expect Bitcoin to do over the next day or two, potentially this week. So that's kind of where we're sitting.
All right. I think it's still looking pretty strong from my point of view. It's had that big correction, but I think we all thought that it needed it. When I was looking at kind of the 1 minute to 5 minute chart earlier, it looked like someone was programmed selling off.
Absolutely.
There was it just looked like, they would sell off a bunch, and then the market would recover for 10 minutes, then they'd sell off a bunch, then 10 minutes and sell off for 10 minutes. Looks like someone bought a whole bunch at 20,000 and unwound it at 40 and said, we're going to take take a little profits there. Or someone knows something that we don't, and and just dump in their shares or their tokens or coins to wait out the bad
Buy
news.
and lower.
You never know with this market. You just never, ever know.
Dude. Mr. Diamond himself straight said that, he made some pretty nefarious comments, but then he goes in, then creates his own coin. So how does that work? But anyways, we're not going to go there, right? We just found that very interesting how that is potentially unfolding. So, yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, don't talk about the gray elephant in the room.
No. First rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club.
We don't talk about Fight Club.
Anyway, it's that time of the show when we just take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to thank, as I always do, our channel presenting sponsor, Audit Chain here. If you go to auditchain.finance, you can learn all about how their software suite and their fleet of validator nodes around the internet check up on traditional finance. That's right, you heard me. Blockchain can now check up on the traditional finance's SEC filings and then similar jurisdictions around the world to see if a public company or any reporting entity that uses modern electronic reporting methods, is filing things correctly. And as I always say, instead of just listening to me blather on about it here, why don't you listen to me blather on about it here in this nice commercial?
Most of you know that crypto exchanges have been taking a beating about transparency, and many groups out there are trying to solve that. But Audit Chain has already done that. Audit Chain's protocols and network of validators can mathematically prove that a company's entire financial state, not just proof of reserves, but a proof of state, and whether or not that company is providing accurate reporting and information to the respective government regulators and to the public. Seriously, you and I can check crypto companies and traditional companies' financial reports for transparency and accuracy using a logic and reasoning engine called Pacioli that records its output where? On the blockchain. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, blockchain technology is now able to be used to check on traditional companies. Behind me is a list of companies that comprise the S&P 100. In essence, the largest U.S. companies by size. More than one quarter, 29 out of 100, have problems with their reports. Remember, accounting and other corporate systems are garbage in and garbage out. So if there are problems with the data out for these companies, in red here, what does that mean? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are problems with the data going in. And this was figured out not by accounting or auditing firms and fleets of consultants. This was compiled and reported on by Audit Chain's Pacioli validating nodes and took only 5 minutes. It's revolutionary and it's a disruptor technology. Audit Chain.
Yeah, unbelievable. My mic wasn't on.
Oh, bro.
Anyway, like I was saying, everybody, this is my favorite time of the show. I like to learn from this, and I learn not just from researching things about guests and about topics and all that. I learn by talking to people about things and fleshing topics out with them and saying, oh, yeah, this is how it is. And they're like, no, Tom, that's not how it is. This is really how it is. And I was like, oh, okay, good. But as I said in the intro to the show,
yeah, they can't hear you still.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back now.
All right.
Anyway, as I said at the beginning of the show, our guest of the day has been on the show before. Koleya Karrington, the executive director of the Canadian Blockchain Association, Canadian Blockchain Consortium. Sorry, I get that wrong many times. Is here to talk about the many things that have happened in the past couple of months since she's last been on the show, including their annual summit, which is the first time that I've gone to, which was amazing. And of course, we'll talk about that in person here. And then kind of the topic of the show was, as you know, you hear me talk about federal policy, regulations, all this type of stuff. And we cover not only the U.S. and Canada, but we talk about what's going on in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, that type of stuff. And the topic is always pretty much the same. And that is governments are putting up walls. They're putting in regulations and licensing schemes that don't really work with each other. There's actually been some small talk in the Middle East about, hey, we're setting up a licensing scheme. Why does it need to be different in our country versus another country? In the Middle East, is the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, is actually very good at coming up with common regulations. So I think eventually that they'll be one of the first groups to do a multi-country licensing scheme. But for now, everyone's putting up their walls. But we don't want walls. We as the users of the digital economy, and we meaning the people that are the companies and policymakers at the regular level, not the Elizabeth Warren crazy person level. And so, did I say my mic on? and so I recently watched the Canadian Blockchain Consortium lead a trade mission on behalf of the government of Alberta and the industry in Alberta to Texas for the North American Blockchain Summit, otherwise known as the Texas Blockchain Summit or whatever it is. But it's one of the most massive ones because Texas has the majority of the mining hash rate in the United States, and it's just a big place for entrepreneurs in the first place, since everyone's trying to make it in the oil and gas industry, but now they're trying to make it in the blockchain industry. And so with that, I bring on, let's see if I can get this right, our guest of the day here, Koleya Karrington of the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. Welcome to the show, Koleya.
Thanks for having me on.
Definitely.
Good. I got to adjust your mic just a little bit here. That should work.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome to the show. I'm even going to try since I blew the mic intro earlier for my Patrick Camuso CPA friend. I'll redo him later, but I'm going to try this. And I got the lower third right this time.
Wow.
See, look at this.
Yes.
Every day I get better and better at this.
Moving on up.
Anyway, Koleya, it was a pleasure to meet you at the summit in Toronto. We've spoken online a few times, but it was good to meet you and witness the amazing stuff you can put together with your summit and the quality of the people there. So in this discussion today, I'd like to talk about that as well as the event in Texas, but more along the lines, how are you? You've been busy. How are you doing right now?
Tired. Yeah, tired. It's been a really amazing year, 2023. But it's been exhausting. We've accomplished quite a fair bit with the consortium. Started a second company for captive insurance for the industry. So that's also been a pretty busy project. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the holidays, shutting off my computer for probably about 2 weeks.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Catching up. I know, right?
Hey, how are you going to do that,
Right,
man?
yeah,
Just
good
the
luck with that.
dopamine I need from it, right?
Goals. We all have to have goals.
Right.
That's a good goal. It's a good goal.
Well, before we get into the trip to Texas and all that, your summit was pretty impressive. I really enjoyed your talk with Kyle Schneps of Foundry Mining. Foundry mining pool. And what he talked about is bringing security. His background as a CIA agent and all that whole background, bringing it into the blockchain sphere was really interesting. And I thought that was a great way to lead off your event. How did you run into him, and how did you get him to come to your event?
So interestingly enough, I think I had reached out to Foundry about the trade mission I was leading in Texas, and I had chatted with Kyle a little bit about that, and just talking about like the consortium and seeing if Foundry might have any interest in kind of like engaging with us. I know they're very New York based, but we're working on creating opportunities for American companies to expand their business opportunities in Canada. And I was kind of asked if he'd be open to like speaking at our event, especially with his background, very, very impressive background, and his knowledge base in the space. And it took a couple of weeks kind of going back and forth, but we landed on a really impactful keynote conversation to kick off the event. And I thought, like, what amazing timing, especially to be able to discuss like people like Elizabeth Warren and how they're negatively trying to impact the industry, and the lack of information that they clearly seem to have, or the confusion that they even create within their messaging. It's like, on one hand, you can say something like, oh, it's absolutely confirmed that Hamas raised money in Bitcoin, but in the same breath, she's explaining how you can't track or trace the currency. It's like, well, which one is it? Right? Like, it's like, how can you confirm something you can't track or trace, but you're clearly just trying to create, issues for this industry to be able to operate. But to me, like, she's pushing the agenda for the central bank digital currencies. So anything that doesn't fall within the CBDC, or anything that she can't specifically control potentially, of course, a bit of a negative. That's my own personal take on it. Not saying that was
right.
Kyle's take, but
I see it drives us all crazy.
I was gonna say, that's like a
little mad.
It's maddening.
It is maddening. That's for sure. But anyway, it was a good talk, and what I really enjoyed was the talk that Ben Harper led about the halving coming up in Bitcoin mining, because it taught me a lot of things that I didn't understand, and of course it also led me to meet Simon, who I had on my show yesterday, which was a very, very enlightening and educational bit. And that really taught me was the size of the industry behind it. In fact, earlier in the year, when I was trying to flesh out what we wanted to talk about the first time you came on the show, you said, well, the Canadian Blockchain Consortium really focuses on this, and on the mining end of it, the industry part of it, that type of stuff. And I was like, well, it's an interesting niche. Oh, it's not a niche. It's the major part of this whole thing. And I learned that the good way, by getting educated by experts in the industry, and that panel was very, very interesting listening to that. What are your thoughts? I don't remember hearing you speak about the halving at all. I mean, you've talked about on this show before running your own miners in your basement, and now seeing that the amount's going to get cut from 6.5 to 3.25 or whatever the amount is. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's going to be blood in the water in the mining industry, or do you think the appreciation in the Bitcoin price will just smooth all that out?
So I'd say like events like the halving are rather critical for the industry. We've seen this happen multiple times. Like, I mean, the first Genesis block, you were able to mint, say, like 100 Bitcoin, then it went down to 50, then it went down to 25, then it went down to 12.5. And then I got in when it went from like 12.5, I think, to 6. Now it's going to 3. So this is kind of my third market cycle, third kind of bear bull market.
Right.
I've never seen blood in the streets when there's a halving, so to speak. Like, a lot of people think that somehow around the time of the halving, there's going to be some like exponential price movement in Bitcoin. And we've also never seen that. It's generally pretty stable moving into that phase. And then we generally see within 6 to 8 months. What a lot of people seem to not realize is the miners are not only one of the more critical aspects of the space, but they also tend to set price. So miners go for the cheapest form of energy. They're usually, like 3 to 5 cents per kilowatt hour to operate is what their kind of range or what they're going for. Some can even get access to cheaper power than that. Some have business models where, they are also acting as a data center, doing some kind of rendering, while at the same time, like depending on the price of Bitcoin, if they're going to make more money selling off their energy, so to speak, for a data center versus what they'd make on mining, or they're able to get participating in demand response in Texas. Like they have really innovative business models. The intelligent companies are generally set up for the halving. They know that this is going to happen, but the fees that the transaction fees also start to balance out. And at some point, you're going to make more money in transaction fees than you are going to make in minting Bitcoin. And that's basically like our understanding is that's how programmed in. That's how the group of Satoshi, the group of developers, that they call themselves Satoshi, have kind of planned this out. You want to be able to continue to have the network supported far past the year 2140 when the last Bitcoin is mined. But usually within 6 to 8 months of the halving is when we start to see market price. So to me, what that means is miners are still a business and you're not going to sell the assets in your business below cost.
Right.
So if it now costs you, double to mint the same amount, or, the same amount of cost, but you're now getting half the profit, you're not going to sell that for what you previously sold it at. You're going to increase that price. And generally it could take up to 6 to 8 months for them to start liquidating those new Bitcoin. And exchanges require those Bitcoin to operate. They need that newly minted supply. 76% of Bitcoin at this point is held offline. Right. There's a small amount in circulation, and you need those newly minted Bitcoins to continue to operate your business as an exchange to keep the liquidity going. So you're going to start buying at prices that miners are going to need to set, which means you're going to see a bump in the market. Now, generally after that, there's FOMO and there's technical analysis. And, traders always tend to think that, oh, look, BlackRock's ETF, that meant something. It's like, technically not really. It's like,
how do you really feel about that?
And every one of them seems to think that only the American economy impacts this industry. It's a global industry. So, to assume that because something happens in America, automatically shifts the price of a completely global asset, I also find really fascinating. So I always kind of get amused when I listen to traders talk about this stuff. Even the people on the media tend to think like, oh, well, this happened somehow. Coinbase, or not Coinbase, sorry, it was Coin Market Cap, or it was one of the media companies. They said something about the EFT approval, and all of a sudden, that shot the price by 5K, and it's like,
oops.
We're in phase 2 of a bull market at this point. Like we're very clearly in the beginning stages of a bull market because one media company said one thing.
The market went nuts.
It's very, very market went nuts.
Right.
So it was very
price
important.
Go up.
It creates scarcity. Yeah. Right. Creates scarcity of the asset. Within 6 to 8 months, we usually see price movement of that asset as well, generally because, again, miners are a business. They're not just liquidating at whatever cost the market seems to want to pay for it at. They're going to liquidate at a price point that makes sense for their business. And, also supply and demand, right? When you start limiting the supply, and every 4 years, the demand for this asset tends to increase. You're now going to see the demand for this asset increase. Players like the BlackRocks and the Vanguards and the Stat Streets and the JP Morgan, all these major funds coming in to institutionalize it, they're going to also have to buy at market price. They can't purchase this asset prior to their approval, right? So they're going to be buying off miners at whatever price miners are probably going to sell at, or whatever they're getting it from.
Although it's my opinion that Jamie Dimon and crew have been loading up on Bitcoin for a while, just buying it low. They may not even the initial when the ETFs do go live eventually, I guess. They might not have to buy any, and the market would be unhappy with that.
Well, it's also very likely that hard to acquiring companies that have it, right? Like you're looking at BlackRock, which, between BlackRock, Vanguard, and Stat Street, they have the same GDP as half of the world's economy.
Right.
You can't tell me that the companies that they're procuring, like their investment into Microsoft, who will accept Bitcoin, their investment into Virgin, which will accept Bitcoin, their investment into like PayPal, which accepts Bitcoin. Like you can't tell me they don't already own that asset through all the businesses that they've got majority stake in, right? So I don't think that this is, oh, it's priced in, this Bitcoin ETF is going to make this insane market movement. I think that you're going to see every 4 years we see a bull market. It's naturally happens. It is not completely impacted by just what a couple companies in America do.
All right, well, let's pivot. Let's pivot now from your successful blockchain summit. Well, first, before we pivot away from it, where's your summit going to be next year? Or is that to be determined?
So we're actually doing a little bit different for next year. We're going to be taking that summit that we did and making it a mini summit series across the country.
Ah, interesting.
So last year we did a cross-country tour, and we did the equivalency of like meetups all across Canada.
Yep.
This time we want to elevate that experience and take what we did at the summit, have like, panels, lunch, panel, networking receptions. But we've planned out a series of events starting in probably about March, ending again in about November for that series all across the country. We may do a large scale signature event again. If we did, we'd probably bring that one back to Calgary.
Gotcha. So now let's pivot. What made you think that I'm going to get the Premier of Alberta to help sponsor a trip to Texas and it be successful? I mean, that, first of all, A, it was genius. 2, it worked. And 3, all of the above. What was the genesis of that thinking that we need to get this moving here outside of the Fed's lack of effort? And that's on both countries, not just one country.
Okay, so I guess I'll have to kind of explain it this way. So I've been a technology entrepreneur since about 2004. And I started participating in trade missions. So the provincial government in Alberta, I'd been with multiple ministers on trade missions. I was one of the first female speakers at the Middle East World Heavy Oil Congress. I traveled to FAMEX in Mexico for the military conference. I traveled to Japan for aerospace conferences. So I traveled with them, and I saw the value. Like, being able to go on these trade missions, generally they weren't led by ministers. It was just kind of like the government saying like, hey, let's bring a group of companies together. Let's take them over to another jurisdiction and see if we can help expand their business in those locations. But the value was the people that you met on those trade missions locally, like you would have never quite met them or engaged with them, and you develop a really strong and amazing business relationship. So when I started doing the consortium and I was looking, I was like, the fact that there's no government trade missions for this industry, I was like, that's actually a real shame, because the second we can get the government engaged in that, we're creating enhanced credibility. We're starting to build out trade. We're meeting with government mandates for like jobs, economy, and growth. Like, there's all kinds of amazing opportunities. Now, when it came to the government in Alberta, I had a really good opportunity to meet with our Premier, Jason Kenney, when he was managing, and talk to him about the consortium. And he had said, God, I wish I would have known about you years ago when they started trying to put their policies together, understanding there is like a credible group of individuals about creating the credibility, about, understanding like we want to see regulation, but not to the point of stifling innovation. Like we want to, create an ecosystem that we could be supported by, government. And so I had brought Premier Kenney to a luncheon the year before. So I'd done an event during July, and I brought in Safety Namoose, and I had brought in Jeff Booth. And basically it was like an orange pill session, and I'm really grateful to even Deloitte. It's like, why don't we put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Now, when I knew Danielle Smith was running, she had already been slated to be a MC for my Alberta Technology Symposium. She's an amazing woman. I'd had the pleasure of being on her talk show years before. So we kept establishing a relationship, and I was like, God, you'd be amazing as an MC. And then when she told me she was running, I was like, brilliant. Absolutely would love to support the campaign. You're probably one of the most incredible people that could be our premier, like hands down, full support. Definitely would love you to still MC this event, because I really want you to hear, like, these are all the things that are happening in the industry. And we had some of the best topics and conversations. By the end of those 2 days, she was like, wow, the province was absolutely incredible. And then while she was campaigning, she even attended some of the roundtable events that we were hosting, trying to engage with government and industry and regulators, helping them have an understanding of, like, what this industry needs to see to thrive, but the supports that this industry will bring back. So when Danielle got elected, I'd also hosted a fundraiser for her, and that was really exciting. So she could meet some of the members of the blockchain community. I'd been with her at quite a few different events that had been going on during her campaign. So when I invited her, I was like, hey, I would love to do a trade mission. It's not just words. I want to show you the level of value that this industry can bring, and my dedication to, making this province successful. Like, because the energy sector and the mining sector, I think those two things just go hand in hand. So she agreed to come to our lunch, and I was able to bring in national stakeholders, like big companies that we're looking at Alberta as our next place. And from the end of that roundtable, she's like, we'd like to support this industry. So we ended up getting the first minister in Canada that's mandated and appointed. We actually had a couple that were, that definitely wanted the file. It's actually split between two ministries, the Innovation Ministry, but the Minister of Service and Red Tape Reduction, Minister Dale Nally, is the one that I would work majority with, because he has the digital asset and the mining file,
Gotcha.
where the Innovation Minister more of the enterprise file, which we don't really do as much in the enterprise space at this time. But it was great to see that we had multiple ministries there. And from that, had some really great conversations with the minister about it. He'd had really good feedback from the last two trade missions that he'd been a part of. So we're like, let's do Texas again, but this time, now it's our third time, let's host roundtables down there, and let's discuss the kind of investment that we could bring. Like, we're talking to companies that are literally throwing out numbers like 1.2 gigawatts, like sites that they'd like to see happen up in this. It's huge.
That's massive.
Opportunities for value.
For you that not in the electricity industry, that's an amazing amount of power.
Well, yeah, and it's not on grid. Like, so our strategy in Alberta is not to do what Texas did and connect everyone to the grid. We have such an incredible abundance of resources that are in our ground right now that, from a federal government perspective, they're blocking us getting it on a pipeline, can't get it on a freaking boat. Like, they don't want to see our resources leave this province. They're basically trying to shut down this industry from a federal government perspective. So our champion is like, let's sell our energy on the internet. We'll sell our energy digitally. If you don't want to help us get it, out of this province, we will get it out, but it just in another form, and it'll be a digitized.
The light bulb just went off there. Right? Yep, I got you there.
So why don't we make Alberta, like the North American for Bitcoin mining? We could easily handle 20% of the global hash rate here alone.
Yep, that hadn't occurred to me that it was an end run around the pipeline problems. And with Alberta has a lot of old wells that are not as productive anymore or efficient, as far as my knowledge of the industry is, in that. But attaching them to a Bitcoin mining, power and link up to the, something like Starlink now, if they're out in the boonies, would be an amazing way to relight. I guess the term isn't relight, but to re-engage those old wells, stop the leaking methane that may be coming out of them, or the flare gas that's neat, that the ones that are working to recapture that energy. There's so many ways that, now that you say that, in which you avoid the pipeline issue. And I hadn't considered that. And that must have been very, very good to the politicians' ears. But speaking of politicians, one of the things that you've mentioned in this talk about Alberta, from Jason Kenney to Premier Smith, and even going down to Texas, was the fact that you needed to educate them at a level in which they're writing policy and coming up with their platform and things like that. Taking that to Texas, did you find that the people in Texas had done the same with the politicians and elected officials there? Were they up to speed on what's going on there? I mean, they have slightly different issues because they're not restricted so much by the federal government as you are. But did you find their education level the same?
Like, there's amazing organizations down there, like Lee Batchelor with the Texas Blockchain Council. I mean, the work that they're doing is phenomenal. When we started working in the mining industry, Emma Todd, our mining chair lead, introduced me to Lee. She basically said, he's like you, but in America. And I started talking with Lee, and I was like, if you would allow me to learn from you, I would love to emulate the work that you're doing there. Like, his ability to bring the regulators, the government, and the industry to the table, working on policy shifts, bringing in some of the like, you have Senator Cynthia Lummis, you have Senator Ted Cruz, you have like Senator Gartner, like, you have all of these amazing people that are coming in that are getting educated on this space. Now, they of course, it's not moving forward as quickly as everyone would like to see, but they're making really impactful change. One of the things that Lee commented on is like just the progress that we've had. Like there is no elected official in the States that's mandated to support this industry. We have that in Canada. It's a first in North America, right? Like our minister is now doing a roadmap study. So the government is funding a study to determine, what kind of supports from a policy legislation perspective, the value this industry is going to bring. That is monumental. There's no other study that's been done funded by government, again, in North America. And we're about to launch our fourth trade mission in partnership with the Alberta government again, and that will be July 8th to 13th. We're bringing in some of the biggest players in North America to meet directly with our highest levels of government to discuss, hey, we want to make this investment into the province. We want to expand our business here. We see Alberta as a viable opportunity. Now, we also want to see this happen for all of Canada.
Right.
We're focusing on Alberta now because we're seeing wins, but that roadmap study is going to help us, with the hopefully, backing of the government to be able to say like, hey, let's sit down with the premier in Saskatchewan or the ministers in Saskatchewan. Let's sit down with Quebec. Let's sit down with Ontario. Let's sit down with, New Brunswick. Let's take that we built in Alberta and see how we can move it across Canada so that Canada, is now considered, the number one, number two player in the world for digital assets and mining. So that is my goal. I want to see this entire country become a prominent and dominant leader. But I'm going to start with the early stage wins that I can get in, the province I call home, which I'm very grateful for, and show them, like, if I can show you value, if I can show you, billions of dollars of investment, if I can show you, like an excess amount of mortgage paying wages, if I can show you, that your mandates will get covered, like high-speed internet in rural areas, if we can build academic programming, if we can do job retraining, if we can, bolster our energy industry, if we can clean up, orphan well sites. Like, there's so many opportunities that this industry has to support this economy.
Right.
Why would other provinces, if they can see that happen here, not want to follow suit, right? Like, it's like nobody really wants to be first. But what I love about Alberta is it's a province of pioneers. We're willing to be first, right? And we can take, the lessons and the learnings and move that forward into other jurisdictions as well. Now, what we're also really grateful for is, like with what happened in Texas, we get to learn from them. What worked, what didn't, what can, we grow and build on so that, you've already had a 5-6 year head start. What can we do here?
Well, it's a big mission you've undertaken to change the policy of an entire government. Not only just a bunch of smaller governments within your country, but also the federal government's idea of it. And they may be slower to come around. Maybe might be a different government that sits federally that gets it. But we won't get into that on the show right now. Pedro.
Well, I want to almost throw this out, but you got to start somewhere. And the reality is, she's a smart woman and she knows how to network incredibly well. And if you look, and this
she's sitting right here, Pedro.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying though is that she understands people, and I just think that's really important, because if Canada starts to make way, right, and you guys start to put things really in place, I can see the U.S. really stepping in and trying to emulate some policies to our north here, and then hence, why not move that into the states and then set up policies in regional places within states where you can sit there and say, look, this is already a place that's actually similar to what is happening. Obviously, we're going to have to morph it to what the local area sets things up. But these are some of the ways that are happening. This is how we can actually make cash on it and then help rebuild a lot of the falling infrastructures by building cash through crypto. This is huge.
It is huge, Pedro. The infrastructure, like I said, building infrastructure isn't just roads and bridges. Yep. Infrastructure is the digital economy as well. And building the data centers, the pipelines, and the access to the energy. I didn't realize how critical the access to the energy is. And not just like, we can get tanker trucks to deliver diesel fuel. Like a local, like actually where the methane is leaking out of the ground, convert that into Bitcoin right there. You don't have to. Yeah, I was talking to Simon Raven yesterday about putting his power units out in the middle of nowhere. And I said, I was thinking to myself, they already have generators running their power. It's like, no, because they pump the oil and gas out of the ground out there. Then they ship it to the United States or the Caribbean somewhere, convert it to gasoline and diesel, and then they ship it back, and then they have to fly it somewhere, and eliminating that whole chain and just taking the gas out of the ground, converting it right into electricity, right into Bitcoin, is a win-win for everybody.
Money. And that's, I think, the
it's money.
Jamie down be like, I want some of that. Give me some of that.
Next thing you know, JP Morgan invests in old oil fields in Alberta.
Exactly. like legit, right? Like, it's just one of those things.
All right, we're coming to the end of our time with Koleya here. Koleya, thank you for coming on the show and talking about that. What's coming up next for your organization in the short term here?
Well, we're about to release our annual report, so people are going to be able to see all of the things that we accomplished throughout the year. We've had 8 highly active committees within our Center of Excellence, from what we've accomplished from a regulatory perspective, a government relations perspective, the success of our trade missions, the events and things like that. So the research papers that we've produced, so it's about a 40-page document at this point. We've done quite a fair bit in this calendar year. And then we're planning what's going to happen for next year. We have 2 trade missions already planned. We have 8 events across the country that are in the planning phases right now. We already have a white paper that's going to be published coming in January on sustainability from the blockchain space, and we're going to be really increasing kind of like our government relations and advocacy work to regulators. So amping up what we've done there. So yeah, lots to look forward to. If anyone wants to keep up to date with us, you can definitely find us at canadablockchain.ca.
I highly recommend everybody. And if you're in the U.S. watching this, or frankly in any country watching this, and you want to get an idea of an effective organization and how they do it, go visit their website and connect with Koleya about things. She's more than happy to preach the gospel to everyone about it and what's going on about her, and especially in her home province of Alberta. Koleya, thank you for coming on the show today. On behalf of me and Pedro, I thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Come on again.
Come on again. Oh,
that wasn't as spicy. We barely got into politics.
Well, problem. We can get into that. We can get into that later. We can always hit them up.
All right, Pedro. Pedro, what have you got for us in the markets here? What's going on next? And while you're getting that set up, hold on. I'm going to re-go over everybody. I forgot my mic was on mute when I was talking about my sponsor, Camuso CPA here. As I always say, Camuso CPA, led by Patrick Camuso, is a U.S.-based crypto accounting firm that can handle the crypto accounting for your company or your personal use, either getting you ready for the upcoming filings, or if you've screwed up your taxes the past couple of years, they can walk back to the first time you filed and the first time you used crypto and fix your taxes all the way up. And they can do that because, as I like to say, they are one of those groups that are allowed to say this is financial advice and this is tax advice. And so it would be very helpful to Pedro and I here if you were to click that link in the body down below. Go visit Patrick and get free evaluation of your crypto holdings and or tax liabilities. And I'm sure, more than sure, he can help you out. So thanks for that, everybody. Hey, Pedro, what's happening?
Give me 1 second, because good old freaking TradeStation decided to do a totally douchey thing. So yeah, go ahead. Dude, I swear to God, this company, bro, I just thank you, God, for them. I'm about to lose it here. Dude, all right. Go ahead. Let's do this.
All right, what's going on? What's going on? Let's talk SHIB, let's talk CADs, let's talk all the Grok, let's talk all of the things that are going to trigger the algorithm now.
Yeah, so here we go. So as you guys can see, and I've talked about this a few times here, we've hit this supply zone right here. You can see that we are now selling off, and we're going to be coming down to our lower area here, which is the 0563 area here, and you should see it's come down to that area. I'm pretty positive this is where it's going to come down to, because there's really no demand here at any of these other levels here. This is not a bad thing. This is one of those things that I've been talking about, because it's got to happen. We hit this monthly supply. We should see it come down to these lower levels first, typically to the 0.5771, and if not lower than that. And additionally to that, when it hits these levels here, expect us to see a nice little rally, if not further up from the highs of a few months ago, and then see it again do this type of stair-stepping situation as we move higher. As we start to come closer into the halving, we should see these micro coins really start to rally into the higher levels. And additionally to that, and this is where you're going to have to decide whether you want to go through and write it and then sell, or you're going to write it and then just keep it until it sells back off. That's based off what you would like to do in your personal goals, but expect to see this next, as it comes back down, to see it rally back up. I do expect this Shiba Inu Shibaru to get moving.
Ship.
Yeah, shib. And so you can see this here is pretty kind of clear to me, as we're going to be coming down to the 7.8 mark area here, and then coming and then making a rally up back past higher than what we're at right now. Now, the other thing I want to bring up, and I think it's really important as we look, is when you look at, and I'm going to, again, the Doge community is pretty hard. Pretty heavy. Oh, whoa, that's weird. Okay. They rally up. It rallied up here, and we're starting to see it kind of mimic Bitcoin here with this little bit of a sideways movement. So if this is going to follow lock and step with Bitcoin, expect whatever Bitcoin is going to be turning around, and most likely this will. So be paying attention to this as it relates in correlation to Bitcoin with Doge. Now, also, let's talk about our good old friend BNB. BNB is really, and this is what I've kind of was impressed. I was watching this last night. Obviously, we saw the sell-off, but since the new establishment of what happened with CZ, you can see obviously there was a major sell-off. I wouldn't call it a major sell-off compared to crypto, but you can see here now with the introduction of the new CEO.
Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas everything is selling off, BTC is actually starting to rally, and with decent volume. So I'm pretty impressed with that. And with that rally, I like I always talk about, I want to see a defense. So when sellers are stepping in, do we see buyers step in to push higher? And that's exactly what we saw here, where it literally sold off, came into supply, or came into demand, put in a nice little demand wick or a buyer wick, and now we're seeing it go higher here. So I do expect us, like I said, kind of maybe make some return back to that. And I know this would really make a lot of people happy, but we potentially could see us hit this 377, 413 area. And then
that would make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, make a lot of people happy. But more importantly, what I want to point out is that it's trading fairly good. We found support at the previous highs of the sell-off, and we came back, found support there, and then what really kind of excited me was this major sell-off on yesterday with a rally back and a push up above moving averages. Because of that, I'm a bit of a bull here. Now, the only thing I do recommend is expect today to see it kind of sell off, to put in a bigger wick here, and then continue it through the night. But ultimately, it's showing some strength there in comparison, almost flying in the face of the market at large. So I'm impressed here with their rally the past few days.
Good things to know.
And then, yes, and if we want to also check our good old friend Kaz.
But quickly, while you're bringing up Kaz, the BNB has disappointed us for so long, just simply because of they just allowed scams to get out of control on that chain. I mean, they really didn't have any control over it. I mean, it was inexpensive, and it's where everyone developed their scam skills in 2021, and then just as we would always get a little bit of good news in the market, the government would come out with bad news for Binance, which would cause the market to tank. And it's been a struggle for them to see that finally resume, because there's a lot of people out there that invested in BNB projects a while ago that have gone down by 90%. Much like Bitcoin has gone down 90% before. and they're waiting for that turnaround to come in order. And they've done their dollar cost averaging, and they're ready to make some good profits. And if BNB can recover and help the liquidity pairs that it's based on, then well, that's a good thing. On to Cass.
No, man, absolutely. I think you nailed it hard. I mean, from a fundamental look, I mean, it's one of those things that I feel like, these coins, even though they're ancillary to blockchain, it's what makes blockchain, it's what funds blockchain development, and hence allowing things that we're seeing with what like Koleya or our guy who we had on yesterday develop, and allows them to actually improve our world in a substantial level. Not just and here's the thing, it's not that it's free money, but it's the fact is that you're not predicated on trying to go to somebody else asking for cash, but literally being able to sit there and say, you know what, how do we kind of become our own Fed in a sense to be able to make cash? And so I respect that. Like, that's one thing, like, it's like the ultimate entrepreneurial mindset, and I think crypto really fosters that. And so, and along with that, like with any type of new technology, you always have scams, you always have things that happen.
Sorry.
But you do have a system that really goes through and sets things up in a very niche way, but in a profitable way. And so I always love it when we see that in business. Now, as you guys see here with Caspa, this is, like I said, like as we were coming up even higher here, like I said, I expect us to see a sell-off, and this is exactly what we're seeing, right? So this is not a bad thing. Again, I talked about you guys dollar cost averaging if you're looking to get into Caspa. Down, maybe your first one is at the 11.8 mark, and then the next one, like I've talked about, is at the 7-cent 7.5 area here. And I'll put this zone right here. Here we go. I'm going to pull this up here real quick. And listen, and this is where it is. As we come down into this level here, expect at first a tap, like tap, tap-a-roo. And then prices, tap it in. And as we come down into this area, expect a nice little push up. But then in additionally to that, I do expect us to kind of sell back down to the base where we were sitting here prior. But either way, these are some junction points that you want to look to potentially be purchasing as we're coming down into these lower levels, if you're looking to still take part in what Caspa is doing. So that's it in a nutshell. When it comes to, is there anything that you guys want me to look at? Any of our viewers want me to check out?
Jim, the ski bum here, says this is what the Caspa graph inspector looks like running at 10 blocks per second. 10 blocks per second. The level of innovation here on a proof of work is unprecedented and changes in the entire framework of what was thought possible in crypto. Imagine seeing this and still fading Cass. Yeah, I wouldn't fade Cass. I would, if you're underwater in it for any reason or give up, I would not do that. And I am not giving you advice or anything. I'm just saying, if they can do 10 blocks a second, that means they're eliminating many of the MEV bot issues too, because they're just too fast for them. I'm sure the bots will get faster too, but this can only be a good thing. That's fast. That's a lot of blocks.
Many blocks. But the biggest key though is that as it keeps developing its technology, just understand, and this is what I always kind of bring up, right? Because you have a disassociation between the technology itself and then the chart, right? You could have a great technology. Let's look at our good old friend at Amazon, right? Amazon literally had more contracts coming in with them. They had, I mean, so many, and I believe this was in the maybe early 2000s. I forget exactly when, but they were at $100 at the time. $100 stock, right? They dropped all the way down, I think to $10 or $5. It was something ridiculous because of just some silliness that had happened. Mr. Bezos is sitting there and he's like freaking out. He's like, what is going on? Why is this happening? My company's completely falling apart here, right? Right. But he just said, you know what? But he knows the fundamentals. I mean, he literally looks at the contracts. He knows that the company itself is literally 10 times better than what it was. And so like he just knows that, so he sits there and he's got to sit there and say, all right, just keep plugging along. And in the same sense, if CAS it does sell off, look, their tech is doing well. And if this is what you want to be in, okay, and this is what you're looking at, look to be getting in at these kind of levels as it's moving in, right? Because here's the thing, I don't see them slowing down. I don't see them stopping their tech and slowing things down. If anything, they're going to sit there. Hopefully they're saving their money here that they're making with all these buys and sells and all the volume coming in. And I'm pretty positive putting it right back into development, like most good companies will do. So I would sit there and be like, wait for a nice little sell-off down at these lower levels so that you can fill up your back if that's what you so choose to do. Again, this is not financial advice, and this is important to understand, educational and entertainment purposes only. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that's in a nutshell. Is there anything else people want me to pull up?
No, actually, I was just giving a shout out to our Facebook viewers. Very rarely do we get any viewers on Facebook, even though I'm always simulcasting it there. And I went over there to check it out, and sure enough, we had a couple of viewers when I was doing that. And most of them are actually from... we have a big Asian crowd that follows us from Facebook. For some reason, I don't know why. A lot of Indonesians and Malaysians and stuff. And we had a couple people, which I believe just due to their names, were from that part of the world. So thank you for watching the Facebook crew. It would be nice to get more people on that if people still use Facebook. But I get in certain parts of the area in the world, it still is used a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hit the XRP and Stellar kind of family there of CBDC payment groups here, just to see how they're faring in relation to what's going on with the BTC dominance, whether they're tracking them or diverging.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty much tracking what Bitcoin is doing. The only issue with XRP is that it didn't put in a higher high, where like we saw with Bitcoin, it's very clear, right? It's definitely higher high, whereas this put in a lower high, now a lower low. I don't like that from an actual charting standpoint, is because when a major index is moving higher and it puts in a higher high, it's the mean, right? It's like the mean. So 50% of the largest cap are doing what that is typically doing, and so you would expect XRP would have put in a higher high at this level right here, and we didn't. We actually put in a lower high, which then signals we should then see a lower low. That lower low comes down to potentially, a 50-cent mark area, 53, potentially 48, if not even the lows right here at that 41. So as a chart, it's not sitting pretty. And in addition to that, I would expect a little bit more as we were moving higher again. And I talked about this, more volume stepping in. Right, but we're not. We actually saw more sellers step in as the market is having a sell-off. So again, somebody big is selling here, and
probably XRP themselves, just to raise money for their enormous organization. My word.
Probably, yeah.
Not that I know anything about it, but they have a payroll that is outsized compared to other groups, and I don't see where their same amount of income comes in.
Well, I know there are a lot of people who are invested in them, and they probably do a lot of private raising, right? Where, and potentially, they have a lot of smart people. So
That's
they
true.
could just be, they could be just simply trading, or if not, have on the backside, miners or something in an area where, because they did have a lot of money that came in. So if I'm like a business owner, I'm like, well, you know what? We know we have got, a couple hundred. I don't say a couple $100 billion, but we have a couple $100 million here. Why not figure out a way to bring in income with this, right? So as a business, they very much could have done that, and then maybe selling off assets within XRP, but also on the other side, right? So on a private side, they I'm pretty positive that they're receiving money from other individuals, and I'm not gonna stipulate who or what it might be, but they could be in bed with people, they could not. I don't know, who knows. But what I'm saying though is this is that the next market down should be a lower low, which is sitting around that 41 cent. Potentially could come down to the 54 cent, 53 cent area as well. And then see hopefully at least another push for a higher high. So we'll see what happens there. And then who was the only one we wanted to check? You said ADA or who was it?
Stellar, XLM.
Yep, XLM.
For some reason, I cannot figure out why. I get notifications on my phone about Stellar, and I don't know why. I can't figure out where they come from. They're just they're or what. I don't search it on my phone. I occasionally I've paid somebody in Stellar. Like I say, the first time I ever paid someone in crypto was Stellar. But I get these notifications every day, up 5%, down 5%. So I'm like, oh, it's CoinMarketCap. Nope, not CoinMarketCap.
That's interesting. That's actually really interesting. Again, these guys are following just kind of pretty similar to what XRP is doing. We can see here, and this is really, again, important, though, is that they did put in, they tried to put in, I mean, they did put in a higher high, but it was immediately rejected here. So with this push up, with the sell-off, like I said, it's come down, it's actually come down further than what XRP would have. They're still kind of in this level here. These guys are coming down into the 11 cent mark. That's a good sign that it is stopping, but I would have hoped for more volume to really try to fight against this. If I see red again here, if this finishes off red, that is somewhat of a bullish sign, meaning that the sellers couldn't gather up enough energy to put another second day to drop the market. So there's some type of absorption going on here. We'll see what happens. But the next part, if it does break below the 11 cent mark, 11, 12 cent mark here, is down to these lows here, which is the 10 cent mark. We should see it. Again, my biggest problem here is this, is that there's not much defense here, right? We put the market up, and as the market has gone up here, you can see here that it's definitely trying to get some momentum, and it just faltered out here. So I do expect to see us come down to the 10 cent mark, if not lower at that 7 cent mark. I know people don't want to hear that. 9 cent, 7 cent mark, but it's just, that's what the charts are telling me. So we'll see what happens here. But again, if you're looking at dollar cost average, these are just great prices for you to be able to get back in right before the next bull run happens. So, you know, when that happens, when that really starts to get going, you do expect the market and the influx of liquidity to push that market up. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's in a nutshell.
All right, what I want to take a moment to let's see, center TV. No, not that one. This one. Nope. Not that one. Yes, nope. All right, why can't I bring up the web here? Not working. Let's just go to the browser. Oh, because it's not on. There we go. Aha! Here we go. I just want to take a moment. Last night I watched for all the way through. I watched the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast, CBP they call it. These two guys pictured here, run a good show. Len is at the bottom here, and once a week they talk about just about everything you can about Bitcoin. They're Bitcoin diehards, and they're also out there promoting the industry within Canada, but also within the entire world and the industry. Just a shout out on there. I commented on their stream a little bit, and they were thankful to have a few extra comments, and I look forward to seeing their comments in our stream one day. So thank you to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast group.
Shout out, man. Most def.
Well, Pedro, we come to the end of the show here. We had a good show. We had Koleya on again, of which we're looking forward to having her on again. She's always a good time, and always a wealth of information. And I totally learned something today. And that,
Yes.
as the viewers know here, Mrs. Striking is in the government lobbying and politics industry here in Ottawa, Canada. And I follow these things, and so it's always on my mind, policy and regulation and how that works. And I've been following how the current federal government in Canada is putting the squeeze on natural resources. Oil and gas, bad. Mining, bad. Mining as in digging the earth, bad. Even though they need mining for the electrical battery industry. And they've really put the screws to Alberta. And I really hadn't considered the fact that they're saying, okay, well, we're just going to do it our way then. We're not going to pipe the energy out of the province. We're going to use it here and turn it into the power for a proof of work industry, which is amazing. It was amazing, and I didn't see that coming. And as soon as Koleya said that, I was like, I did the light bulb, book, popped on, and I was like, oh, I get it. That's genius. And then what you're going to see with Alberta and probably like the general people in Texas is that when the government wins change, which they always do, Alberta and Texas will have developed a whole new market or industry. And so that when the concept that natural resources are good again comes in full circle, they're going to have two industries that are booming as a result. And that will bring the wealth back to the oil countries, that's for sure, or to the oil states and provinces. So that was a good thing. We had a good talk about it. We'll be talking a little bit more about the Canadian Blockchain Consortium's event, because in the future we're going to have the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Kyle Schnups of Foundry Finance, or Foundry Digital Finance, whatever. They're one of the largest mining pools in the world for Bitcoin. We're going to have him on the show to talk about the industry, and that he should be a wealth of information as well. So thank you to Koleya. Pedro, thank you very much for your usual banter and expert knowledge of reading the charts and telling us what the tea leaves have in store for us.
What's funny is I whenever we bring these super smart and guests on, I learn a lot. I mean, I wish I could really be able to banter back and forth with them in relationship too, but there's so much knowledge that is out there going on in crypto. It's like, how do you it's like, where do you spend your time? And do you spend 90% of your life like just focusing on everything crypto? I mean, life, man, I don't understand how you do it, Tom. It's impressive. It's impressive.
Well, it needs to be more impressive so it puts money in the pocket. So if you're a potential sponsor out there, you know what to do. Ring us up and say, we want to sponsor your show because you guys are awesome. As they say, growing slow. We're growing. The viewer counts are slowly going up over time. Thank you to LinkedIn. My LinkedIn's been a viewer count bonanza for us lately. I simulcast a kick, and we still get one viewer there a week or so. But one of these days when they get over the hula hoop and feet people, they'll come over and watch our crypto show. And of course, Twitch always provides us Mike from Canada. Mike missed us today, but I had to play that anyway. So I just miss it. And of course, thank you to all you other viewers that tuned in today and commented, LinkedIn and YouTube, Space Cat and crew. Can't do it without you. Anything else before we roll here, Pedro?
No, that's it. I've been looking kind of at. So the other day I was actually I want to.
That's your cue to wrap.
Well, yeah, there is one moment. I know. I want to throw this out. I actually noticed real quick. I want to talk about this. Maybe we could do it this week or not. But Crow had a big pump, and it was really impressive. And so I've been kind of keeping an eye on Crow as well. I am, and just so everybody knows, I'm definitely looking to be, purchasing their coins. I just want everybody to know that, but I've been watching them, and what's been really impressing me is this. You see this right here, how you're not seeing any really lower lows here, and the high was really a strong high. So I don't know if you're looking. That's one thing that you could check out. Check out Crow as well. That was it. That was it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what our schedule is going to be the rest of this week. I was supposed to have another guest for you on Thursday, but that isn't working out. So Pedro and I will figure out our schedule the next couple of days. I think I've only got one more show this week, maybe 2 if I can work it out. But we will let you know. Pay attention to the social medias, and you will know when the next show is. Once again, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here on the digital media world, whatever you want to say. So glad to have hosted another great episode of DYOR Live on behalf of Pedro and I. Have a great day, and we will see you later, so be there.